Hi, I'm Randy Robison. This is Life Today TV. I'm here with Holly Wagner, who, along with her husband Philip, pastors out in Los Angeles at Oasis Church, and she's also written many books. You may know God Chicks, a book she wrote on marriage with her husband called, what was it called?
Love Works.
Love Works. And her new book, Warrior Chicks. Holly, thanks for sitting down with us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that's good to have you. Now, are those real gloves, or is that a Photoshop job?
Those are real gloves.
Real pink gloves?
Yeah, well, they're kind of purple, but yes.
Yeah. Well, give me a little. I want to talk about you.
Okay.
Because that's
cool.
Interesting. In the last year, you hinted at some on the television
Yeah.
show. But give me an overview of the book, kind of the theme that you're trying to communicate to women primarily, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the message. It's funny. My husband says this is one of my favorite books of his. So, but because the message is just about as. At this time in history that God's trusted us with, we can't, we don't have the luxury of just chilling, and I think there's the big global challenges we have to deal with, from starvation and water crisis and what your father was talking about earlier, there's some human trafficking, there's the big global issues that we actually better be warriors and fight through it, and then we each have our own challenges.
Yeah.
Whether it's a marriage crisis, or you lose your job, or you lose your house, or you have a friend that's going through a drug rehab. I mean, we all have our own personal crises, and so we just can't back away. We have to actually rise strong on the inside. There's a verse, I think it's in Matthew 11 in the Message Bible. It says, Jesus says, "Don't think I've come to make life cozy," and I think. Too many times, that's what we want. We want the cozy life, right? We want the white picket fence and the minivan and the 2.2 kids,
sure.
and you can have all that, but I just don't think settling into this life of coziness and comfort should be our big goal, right? I mean, what are you going to do? Get to the end of your life and on your tombstone it said you arrived safely? Really?
Well, he was comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Right.
That's just not my big goal. I'd rather be known for at least trying something, going for it, trying to help somebody, rising up in the midst of challenge. And
it's interesting because as you talked about on the broadcast show, your husband's battled lymphoma, so life and death situation there, essentially. You guys were the victims of some serious identity theft.
Yeah.
So financially, you faced some pretty serious devastation. You had a personal betrayal, so you've had that struggle in close friends, and then you have battled cancer.
Right.
So
starting to feel like Job here.
Yeah. Well, I know, and you're laughing still, but which is great. But this is hit home. This is not just a topical book for you. This is personal.
No. And these were real issues, real situations, and I write a lot about navigating breast cancer and Warrior Chicks, which is what sort of my journey, and then I'm pretty honest about just even some the challenges that you have. Philip and I have been married 30 years. Well, most of them were good years, but there are some challenges in building a marriage, and so I'm pretty honest. I think my way of communicating is just tell it like it is.
Yeah.
I think that helps people the most.
Where did you get married when you were 14 or something?
You're such a nice guy.
I haven't even we're hitting 25 next year. Anyway, but here's the question, because you are upbeat, you maintain a positive attitude, you write about these things, but on the inside, it's got to be tough.
Oh yeah.
I mean, is this gloss or is this grit? What really is going on?
For me, people have said to me, well, you're just a happy person. I go, no, actually, I have to choose joy just like everybody else does. Right. And, navigating breast cancer to my husband's situation to all the things that you listed, it's like there were moments when I was on my face crying, and we have this place in our backyard. I would pace and cry and talk to Jesus, and so real moments.
What do you say?
What do I say?
Is it just why? I mean,
for me, I think I've learned better than asking why, because I'm not sure you always get that answer, but I have learned to go, okay, what is it you want me to do now? What can I do now? And there were some times when he just said, will you trust me? will you trust me? And I remember when I was navigating a particularly challenging situation with one of my children, and I was just crying, and that's what he said to me. He goes, will you trust me? Oh, well, really? Must be something really challenging is going to happen. But I think at some point in the midst of challenge, that's where I got to, is I just had to trust him. In Romans 8:28, it says, and we can know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And so for me, I had to remind myself of that daily, that he works all things together for good. I started thinking it's like, a tapestry that, you've seen those tapestries, beautiful. But the thing, what I realized is that God works from the backside of the tapestry, where there's the knots and the threads hanging all over. And so he's working from the backside, and we don't see necessarily the front. He knows what he's building, but we just see the mess. And sometimes I think, maybe not you, because I know you're practically perfect, but sometimes I can get stuck just in one spot on that tapestry, like, what's going on?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I started thinking how, Joseph, like if we look at the life of Joseph, when we look at any one spot on the back of that tapestry, it could be terrible when he was thrown into a pit by his brothers, when he's thrown into prison, and when he's lied about and betrayed and then forgotten about. And you look at any one part and it's horrible. But if you look back with the lens, it's magnificent. Right? And so I just think that's how it is with Paul's life, right? You look at any one part, there's like shipwrecks, beatings, but you look back, wrote half the New Testament. And so I just think I've had to learn with my life, like this is just one of those dark thread moments.
Right.
And I will trust God that he will work all things together for good.
You don't have to work good things together for good. They're already good.
Yeah.
So the hope is that even in the bad, because there are bad things.
Yeah, there are.
But he works them together in a way that we don't always see, especially looking forward. It's easier to see them when you look back.
No.
But for good, let me ask you this: Do you feel like you have to be the strong one all the time?
I think there probably is a. I think I'm pretty honest when I'm, feeling challenged or feeling weak or whatever. But I do feel a responsibility just because I'm leading people. So I don't have the luxury of letting my emotions take me down a dark path. I don't have that luxury.
Do you have anyone that you can?
Oh, yeah. No, I got friends I vent with and cry with and yell with. And
how important is that?
Oh, crucial.
Because I run into this a lot in ministry.
No, crucial.
Right.
No, listen, there's, one of the chapters even in Warrior Chicks, I talk about you're never alone.
Yeah.
And so Jesus sent people out 2 by 2.
Yeah.
So if you try to do life, ministry, anything by yourself, you'll not make it. Yeah. Moses had people holding his hands up.
Literally.
And
Literally had them on. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So yes, to answer your question, I do feel this responsibility to be strong and grow in my faith to lead people, but I'm also very honest, and I have people who I cry with, and there are times I called and go, I'm not going to make it another day. I need you to pray right now.
Yeah.
So I have those people in those moments. Yeah.
Good. You're right about focus. Have you managed to, you think, as best you could, keep your focus through all these things?
When I started thinking about that, just sort of the qualities of a warrior, and you think, and one of them is focus. If we're going to actually fulfill our purpose or get through the fight or whatever we're doing, is to keep our focus. It's if you think about a child, you take your children. Remember when they were little and you took them to the park and you're holding their hand and they're walking and then they get distracted. You're headed to the swing set, right? But they get distracted by a piece of gum on the ground or by the ants crawling.
No, it's worse than that. Junior in high school, second day of school, I had to take stuff to the school because she was already forgetting stuff. So, anyway, so.
Yeah, focus.
Yeah, right.
And so I guess on one hand, like for a toddler to lose focus, or maybe a junior or whatever, it's one thing. But you get into university, and let's say you have this goal to, get into med school, but you're a sophomore now at university, and wow, classes are getting hard, and you want a boyfriend, and so then you get this boyfriend, and now you're spending all your time at parties, and then the next thing you know, you're cutting classes, and the next thing you know, that diploma's a long way off now.
Yeah.
So the cost of losing focus is pretty big. And I had this friend who was in the military, and he said that in boot camp that the drill sergeant was prepared for these young recruits to be in there and to not be able to focus. And so they're prepared for that. So but they're determined to get them to be focused. So they'd have them in this room, and whenever the drill sergeant would start to sense that the recruits were losing focus from whatever they're teaching, he would yell out, "Eyeballs." And then all the recruits would yell back, "Click." Like they would bring their head back and yell, "Click." And it just brought everybody back to focus. And when he said that, I started thinking, wouldn't it be great if we all had a drill sergeant in our back pocket that would yell, "Eyeballs," when we start losing track?
No, that would drive me nuts because it would happen a lot. Right.
Because we're all a little bit ADD, right? But I just, so many times that I get distracted.
Do you think sometimes maybe God lets bad things, or tough things happen because he's going, eyeballs?
Eyeballs, eyeballs, eyeballs.
Look at me.
Look at me.
Yeah.
Look at me. And so that's where I'm getting. It's like our focus has to be on who he is and what he's trusted us to do. And so for me, in the midst of whatever challenge, the waves are crashing against the boat, it's the middle of a storm, I can look at those and get freaked out, or I can keep my eye on who he is, keep my focus where my focus needs to be.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, been the work of navigating breast cancer. It's like the focus was, I'm going to get through this and get my life back on track. It's going to be fun. My focus is on who he is. He has equipped me to get through this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Charlotte Gamble sat there and we talked about the miracle in the middle, and how oftentimes we know God wants to take us to the other side because he's told us he'd meet us there.
Yep.
But it's in those storms in the middle that it gets the hardest, but that's where he shows up the biggest.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, I think people should read Warrior Chicks, and guys can read it too, right?
Yeah, come on.
You're just not at the coffee shop.
That's right.
Which is what I
Get the
do.
Kindle version.
Yeah, get the Kindle version. There you go. Perfect stuff. Where can people find you online?
OasisLA.org or godchicks.com.
Very good stuff. Check out God Chicks and check out Holly when she's on Life Today. You can see that at lifetoday.org.